Our story begins with our main character, Lee, a military commander. He tells his lover, Cheng, that if he dies in battle, she should forget about him and move on with her life. 2 days later, we see him lying on the battlefield among his fallen soldiers, barely alive. He drags his severely injured assistant and tries to wake him up. Soon, we learn that Cheng betrayed him by leaking classified military information to the enemy, which led to his defeat. Later, we find our protagonist in the operating room. It turns out he had his assistant announce his death, allowing him to change his identity. He decides to start a new life, seeking revenge on Cheng, who married someone else just 1 day after hearing of his death. Some time passes, and we see Cheng negotiating an illegal arms deal. Meanwhile, 3 women discuss her in a positive light, one of them being Xie, the fiancé of our protagonist in his new identity, unaware of who he truly is. At this moment, he enters the scene. After dealing with the man Cheng was meeting, he takes her to a private location, torturing her for information about the weapons. When she insists she knows nothing, he orders one of his men to continue the torture until she talks. Despite the brutal treatment, Cheng doesn't break, and she eventually loses consciousness. When our protagonist finds out, he takes her to a secure place, intending to kill her himself. But before he can, he hears her calling his name in her sleep, crying. This triggers an internal conflict. His heart whispers that she might be innocent, while his mind reminds him of her betrayal and the soldiers who died because of her. In the end, he decides to spare her life and calls for a doctor. As she regains consciousness, she flinches at his touch. Enraged, he grabs her by the throat, reminding her that she married another man just a day after his supposed death. He tells her she doesn't deserve to live. Just then, his assistant informs him that the governor is asking for him, so he leaves, warning her that her life depends on her confession. While alone, Cheng recalls the past. The very general whom Lee fought against had once forced her into marriage with his son. When she resisted, he threatened to kill Lee's father, leaving her no choice but to comply. It becomes clear, she never betrayed Lee. Lost in thought, she remains silent when Lee returns, demanding once again to know the location of the weapons. Convinced she will break under pressure, he points a gun at her. But instead of fear, she welcomes death, saying it would be a mercy. Infuriated, he pulls the trigger, only to reveal the gun was empty. His assistant enters to check on him and is shocked when Lee declares that he will marry Cheng in 3 days. When Xie learns of his decision, she is devastated and tries to change his mind, but he insists that this is the only way to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Cheng refuses to eat, so he force-feeds her. Seeing her break down in tears, he softens and tells her to stop resisting, but she remains silent. Frustrated, he walks away. Elsewhere, the governor, a cruel and unstable man, mistreats his wife and tells Lee that he must make Cheng talk. He will not allow the weapons to fall into the hands of a rival family, the same one Lee fought against a year ago, and the same family Cheng had married into. The next day, Cheng's husband, Zhang, arrives by train. As he steps out, he is ambushed by Lee and his men, who intend to assassinate him. However, Zhang and his guards manage to escape, though not without injury. When the governor hears that Lee has failed, he warns him that Zhang must die soon. Later, Xie visits Lee, trying once again to convince him not to marry Cheng. He dismisses her, telling her to leave. Furious, she storms off, bottling her anger toward the governor, who, as it turns out, is her brother. She is livid that he agreed to the marriage, knowing she loves Lee. In frustration, the governor takes his anger out on his already suffering wife. Meanwhile, Cheng is overwhelmed by memories of her past with Lee. She still hasn't moved on, despite believing he is dead. She sits drinking tea, lost in thought, when Xie storms in, furious. In her rage, she smashes a cup on the ground and taunts Cheng, saying she doesn't deserve Lee. Cheng coldly replies that if Xie wants him, she can have him. He means nothing to her. The tension rises until Xie tries to attack Cheng, but at that moment, Lee walks in, forcefully pushing Xie away. He warns her never to speak to Cheng that way again. Later, a servant brings Cheng her wedding dress, but she pays it no mind. The governor's wife approaches her, quietly offering her an escape plan using a coded gesture. This makes Cheng realize that the woman is trying to help her. When Lee later asks why she hasn't tried on the dress, She defiantly tells him that she will never marry him. Enraged, he grabs her and tells her the wedding will happen, whether she wants it or not. She finally agrees, but on one condition: she must be allowed to leave the palace to handle matters at her company. He accepts but secretly orders his men to monitor her, fearing she might try to escape. Meanwhile, Zhang learns that she has left the palace and immediately heads to her company, convinced she is behind his father's disappearance. Our hero's assistant sees him entering, while our heroine reacts to the presence of our hero's mother, feeling more at ease. She then learns that the governor's wife was the one who helped her and brought her here to keep her safe from danger. When Zhang sees them together, he is surprised at how well our hero's mother treats her, considering she is supposedly responsible for her son's death. When she notices his presence, he points a weapon at her, demanding she reveal his father's location. She steps in front of our hero's mother to protect her, insisting she knows nothing. At that moment, our hero's assistant and his soldiers knock on the door to check for Zhang's presence, so he aims his weapon at our hero's mother and threatens our heroine, forcing her to deny them entry. She complies, and when our hero finds out, he assumes she must be working with Zhang against him. He storms into her office, determined to search it, despite her attempts to stop him. She steps closer to him, causing him to momentarily hesitate, and he leaves without searching the place. Meanwhile, the governor assigns his wife to help our heroine prepare for her wedding. She agrees and reveals that she once worked for our heroine's family, where they treated her like one of their own. That's why she wants to help her now. Eventually, our heroine decides to surrender and agrees to marry our hero so he can help her take revenge on her family's enemies. On the way to the wedding hall with the governor's wife, they are ambushed by a group of attackers. A fight breaks out, and while he tries to help her, he is outnumbered. When our hero learns what happened, he checks on the governor's wife, then sets out with his assistant to find our heroine. They arrive just in time, preventing one of her captors from harming her. Our hero then takes her back to the palace, helps her change into a clean dress, and then they go to the hall together. When Xia sees her, she can't believe her eyes because she was the one who ordered the men to kidnap her. After the wedding ends, her brother goes to hit her in anger, warning her not to act foolishly, or he will resort to harsher measures. He also informs her that our hero knows she was behind the kidnapping. Furious, she storms out. Later, when she sees a young woman laughing with her lover, she imagines herself in that situation and impulsively throws water on the girl. Still upset by the idea of our hero being with someone else, she returns to the palace and takes out her anger on her assistant. Noticing her distress, our hero asks if she regrets marrying him. He recalls something she said before the battle and is puzzled by how he knows about it. When she questions him about his identity, he coldly tells her that a traitor like her has no right to ask. Meanwhile, Zhang checks on his injured assistant, who got hurt while helping him rescue our heroine. Another assistant reprimands her for being careless, but it's clear he has feelings for her. However, she secretly has feelings for Zhang and is happy that he worries about her. After Zhang leaves, he shares his dreams about what he plans to do once the war against the governor is over. At the same time, our heroine's assistant helps her with her hair and points to a box belonging to our hero, warning her not to open it. But her stubborn nature gets the better of her, and as soon as her assistant leaves, she opens it. Inside, she finds the hair ribbon she had given him long ago, which only deepens her suspicions. Determined to confirm her doubts, she treats him more kindly and tells him she wants to learn about his family. He coldly replies that he has no family. When he later finds the box open, he realizes she was the one who opened it and suspects she doesn't trust him. He then orders his assistant to assign someone to spy on her. Later, he takes her to visit the governor. When the governor's sister tries to humiliate her, our heroine slaps her. The governor's sister is about to retaliate, but her brother stops her at the last moment, warning our heroine that he will overlook this incident for our hero's sake, but it must never happen again. Our hero then instructs her to sit with the governor's wife, while he informs the governor that he has assigned someone to keep an eye on her. He also assures him that they will soon find the weapons. When the governor's wife asks our heroine who kidnapped her, she reveals that it was the governor's sister. Instead of being upset, the governor's wife advises her to use her beauty to make our hero fall for her so he can help her achieve her revenge. As she leaves, the governor's sister tries to provoke her, but our heroine ignores her. Frustrated, the governor's sister takes out her anger on her brother's wife. The next day, while our heroine is walking through the city, Shang intercepts her to ask once more about his father. She insists she knows nothing and warns him that his father is not the innocent man he thinks. Years ago, he was responsible for the deaths of 10 members of her family. When our hero learns that she met with Shang, he confronts her, his eyes burning with jealousy. He demands to know if she was daydreaming about Shang and if she regrets being apart from him. Angrily, she admits that she loves Shang and would have gone back to him if she hadn't been forced into marriage. Her words ignite our hero's jealousy further, and he forcefully gets close to her, his gaze saying that she will belong to no one but him. She slaps him and steps back. He nearly strikes her back but stops himself at the last moment. Meanwhile, the governor tells his wife that he plans to eliminate our hero once he helps him find the weapons. After that, he will wipe out Shang's family and marry our heroine himself, as he finds her intriguing. At the same time, Shang tells his men that they must locate the weapons before the governor does. To accomplish this, they must convince our heroine to cooperate with them. At night, our hero returns home completely intoxicated, forcing himself onto our heroine against her will. The next morning, when he wakes up and finds her crying, he is deeply affected and regrets what he did. Shortly after, his assistant arrives with urgent news. The soldiers are rebelling because the governor hasn't been paying their wages. The assistant also expresses his suspicions about the governor's true intentions. When our heroine learns about the situation, she decides to follow the governor's wife's advice and win our hero over to her side. She approaches him, offering solutions to the problem, and he listens to her, ultimately deciding to pay the soldiers. This infuriates the governor, and when his sister notices his anger, she tries to calm him down, insisting that the information must be false. Meanwhile, the governor's wife meets with our heroine and tells her she suspects our hero's true loyalty lies with her family, not Shang's. She overheard him saying something along those lines while he was drunk. Later, when our hero returns home, he questions our heroine about why she helped him solve the problem. She responds that she wants him to return the favor by helping her find Shang's father. She needs to find him to uncover the truth about what happened that night. However, our hero misunderstands her intentions, assuming she only wants to help Shang. This enrages him, and in his jealousy, he reminds her that she belongs to him alone. Determined to get to the truth, he visits a hidden room in his house, where he has secretly imprisoned Shang's father. He demands to know his connection to our heroine, but the man refuses to talk, only admitting that she was once his son's wife. When our hero threatens his son's life, the man finally confesses. Years ago, he did accompany his army to attack her family's estate, intending to seize power. However, by the time he arrived, her family had already been wiped out. Meanwhile, the governor's sister informs her brother about the meeting between our heroine and his wife, warning him that they are likely plotting against him. The governor decides to handle the situation himself, realizing that his wife was the one who helped arrange our heroine's marriage to our hero. That night, while lying next to his wife, the governor tells her that the thing he despises most in life is betrayal. Without hesitation, he kills her. The next day, he warns our hero not to let his feelings for our heroine cloud his judgment, or else he won't be able to extract the truth about the weapons from her. He then orders him to marry another woman, claiming it will test his loyalty. Our hero initially refuses, but the governor gives him no choice and tells him to prepare for the wedding. Forced to comply, our hero informs our heroine about his upcoming marriage. For the first time, she feels jealous, but she suppresses her emotions, pretending not to care, and tells him to do whatever he wants. He then instructs his assistant to handle all the wedding arrangements on his behalf. The assistant informs him that the governor is making him marry Shia because he suspects his loyalty. Meanwhile, the governor secretly orders his sister to keep an eye on our hero and report anything she hears, as he believes our hero knows the location of the weapons and is only pretending to be loyal to him. At the wedding, Shia deliberately spills tea on our heroine while serving her brother, then accuses her of doing it on purpose. Our hero gets angry and tells Shia to behave herself. Later, in their room, he hands her a drink laced with a sleeping agent because he has no intention of being with her. She loses consciousness, and he leaves. Stepping outside, he finds our heroine drinking alone in the garden. He approaches her, and just as she is about to walk away, he grabs her hand and confesses his love for her. At that moment, Shia regains consciousness, walks outside, and sees them together. She interrupts, telling our hero she has been searching for him. Expecting him to go with her, she is stunned when he pulls our heroine closer instead. As he is about to tell our heroine that he wants to spend the night with her, she pulls away and leaves. Enraged, Shia later confronts our heroine in her room, warning her never to dream of having our hero as long as she is alive. To break her spirit, she gives her a box belonging to her brother's wife, revealing that the governor has killed her. Devastated by the revelation, our heroine breaks down. When our hero sees her in this state, he immediately blames Shia and forces her out of the room. However, our heroine's grief takes a toll on her, and she collapses. When the doctor examines her, our hero finds out that she's pregnant. Shocked by the news, he tells himself he needs to understand what really happened in the past, and whether the heroine is connected to what happened to him and his soldiers, so he doesn't wrongly treat her like he did with Asia. He goes to torture Shang's father to get him to confess the truth. Shang's father admits that the heroine gave him the information about his soldiers, insisting she betrayed him. After our hero leaves Shang's father's place, the heroine sees him on his way out and is curious about what he's been doing in the secret room. When she sees Shang's father, she's surprised, and she goes to tell her brother, who becomes even more suspicious of our hero because he had believed that the hero had already taken care of him. Later, the heroine is in her room thinking about her baby when a disguised man enters. When she asks what he's doing there, he tells her he needs her help providing for the city's citizens who are being trapped by the governor's soldiers. Confident that she will agree because she hates seeing people suffer. Just then, our hero enters and aims his weapon at the man. But at the same moment, Shang's assistants enter and aim their weapons at him. The heroine stands in front of our hero to protect him. Our hero faces the choice of either letting Shang's assistants go or taking the life of the heroine and their baby first before doing so. He decides to let them leave, though frustrated by the thought that she's willing to sacrifice her life and their child's to protect Shang. Once inside the room, he unleashes his anger on her, asking if she loves him, since she defends Shang. He pushes her to the ground in his fury. When Shia sees them, she smiles and suggests that the child the heroine is carrying might be Shang's. At that moment, our hero notices that the heroine is bleeding and regrets his actions. He calls for the doctor, who informs him after examining her that she shouldn't be under stress anymore, or she might lose the baby. Regretful of what he's done, he goes to apologize to her. Meanwhile, she spends the whole day feeling sad, and when he tries to comfort her, she tells him not to enter, and leaves, clearly upset. At the same time, our hero is drinking, and when Shia sees them, she gets angry and vents her frustration on her assistant. The next day, the heroine suddenly becomes ill, and our hero carries her back to his room. The doctor examines her and advises that she needs to rest, warning that she can't move from her bed. Shia, carrying food for Shang's father, tells him that the hero almost killed her son and let the heroine go, so now she must take revenge. She leaves him a key and leaves, hoping her plan succeeds in getting rid of the heroine completely. The heroine, in the meantime, is in the garden when Shang's father attacks her, trying to choke her. He tells her that he won't let his son be harmed because of her and insists that he has nothing to do with what happened to her family. He says that all this time, she's been blaming the wrong person. Just as our hero arrives, he takes care of Shang's father. When he sees the heroine bleeding, he rushes her to the doctor. Sadly, she loses the baby, and the doctor tells our hero that she won't be able to have children again. The next day, the governor pretends not to know that Shang's father was imprisoned by the hero. He tells him he will assign some soldiers to guard the place, but in truth, he wants them there to keep an eye on everything. When Shang finds out what happened to his father, he breaks down and vows revenge on the hero. Our hero, meanwhile, feels that the governor no longer trusts him and fears that at any moment, the governor might harm the heroine to find out where the weapons are. Therefore, he pretends to have no interest in her, claiming he only tolerated her for the sake of their child, and tells her that, in his eyes, she is nothing more than a cheap woman he enjoyed being with. Naturally, the heroine is devastated by his words, and while she's about to hit him with a broom, she holds herself back, takes her things, and leaves. At Shang's, he reminisces about the time his father asked him to marry the heroine. He stands there, remembering his father's words, and decides to go to the city to retrieve his father's body, which the governor had hung in front of the palace. By chance, they meet. When she finds out what he intends to do, she tries to stop him, urging him not to risk his life, as the governor's guards would kill him if he returned. She then tells him she agrees to cooperate with him, to help the innocent civilians suffering from the war, on the condition that he helps her find out who really killed her family. Her father had told her before his death that the person she's looking for is not the one she thinks. At the same time, the governor asks our hero why he kicked her out. Our hero tells him that he confirmed she doesn't know the location of the weapons, so keeping her around is useless. Shia, foolishly happy about what he did, doesn't realize that he only did it to protect her. Meanwhile, our heroine starts planning with Shang and his allies to retrieve his father's body without putting their lives at risk. She suggests assigning a group of people to create chaos in the area where the body is displayed, using the distraction to take it. The plan works, but when our hero sees them trying to retrieve the body, he attempts to stop them. At that moment, our heroine's long-lost brother, Chong, appears and stabs our hero in the stomach without knowing who he really is. Later, our hero's assistant informs him that Chong is at the cemetery. He goes there and finds Chong sitting in front of a fake grave, apologizing to his father for failing to protect him. Our hero also learns that our heroine has been protecting Chang's mother ever since his death to keep her safe. In that moment, he realizes his own values conflict with the governor's cruelty. He decides that when he finds the weapons, he won't hand them over but will instead use them to protect the people. As soon as he learns that our heroine never betrayed him, and that she only married Shang because his father threatened her mother's life, our hero is devastated. He drowns his sorrows in alcohol, ashamed that he ever believed the rumors about her. Shia, seeing him in this vulnerable state and completely unaware of his actions, takes advantage of the situation. She makes him lose consciousness, changes into a different outfit, and lies next to him. The next morning, when he wakes up, she lies to him, claiming that he got intimate with her. In shock, he believes her and leaves the room in a daze. His assistant, noticing his miserable state, convinces him to seek out our heroine if he misses her so much. Meanwhile, Chong meets our heroine at Shang's secret base. She is stunned, unable to believe she is seeing her brother again, having thought he was dead. When he assures her that Shang's father had no role in their family's massacre, she recalls what the governor's wife said about overhearing her husband talking about it. This confirms her suspicion that the governor was the one responsible for her family's demise. Also, he could seize power. Chong talks to her about our hero, without revealing who he really is. She tells him she doesn't care about him anymore and recalls how cruelly he treated her when they were together. Meanwhile, the governor orders his men to eliminate our hero after discovering that he has been secretly helping civilians. He sends 3 assassins after him, but despite being shot in the shoulder, our hero manages to defeat them. When our heroine hears about his injury, she worries, but Shang questions why she cares, reminding her that he was once her husband. He tells her that if she wants to check on him, she's free to go, but she refuses. Shia, on the other hand, rushes to visit our hero, worried about his condition. However, he coldly dismisses her from his room. He then instructs his assistant to go tell our heroine that he is gravely ill and on the verge of death, hoping she will come to see him. She does visit him, but when she realizes he was only pretending to be dying, she gets angry and decides to leave. At that moment, she overhears the doctor telling Shia that she is pregnant. Overcome with jealousy at the thought that something actually happened between them, she storms out, unaware that, in reality, nothing ever happened between them at all. Shur threatens the doctor with the lives of his family to lie and say she's pregnant, so our hero holds him because of the baby. Later that night, the ruler gets angry when he hears that Chong and his soldiers attacked their camps and caused major losses. He orders his assistant to eliminate him quickly and retaliate. When Shur ignores him, she gets angry and tells him that the heroine he loves so much is living with Chong in his camp and doesn't care about him. At the same time, Chong admits to our heroine that he had refused to marry her when his father asked him to, and that's why he left her and traveled on their wedding day. But now, he's in love with her and wants her to give him a chance. She refuses, telling him that what they had was just a political alliance, nothing more. Shur gets upset when she hears their conversation and goes to sit alone, sad. When he arrives, he sits with her and tries to comfort her by confessing his love for her, but she rejects him. She goes to her company, where she hears her brother talking with our hero and finds out the truth. When he tries to explain why he hid things from her, she slaps him for doubting that she might cheat on him. When he asks her to put herself in his shoes, She says that back then, she wouldn't have believed any rumors about him because she trusts him. She asks him, crying, to leave and never appear in front of her again. He leaves, full of regret and self-blame for what he did to her. When Shur sees his condition, she takes advantage of the opportunity and tries to turn him against the heroine, convincing him that she doesn't love him. But he doesn't care about her words and, as usual, kicks her out of the room. When her brother learns that the losses in his army are increasing, he decides to delay his plan to eliminate our hero until the problem is solved. He appoints a leader for all the divisions and asks him to send a peace message to Chang, stating that they want peace. Chang accepts their offer, and they hold an official event to announce it. At the event, our heroine hears two women talking badly about her, saying that she's involved with Chang while being married to our hero. They argue that her marriage to him is illegal because she married him while still being married to Chang. He believes them to the point that he breaks his glass of drink in his hand. When the heroine leaves with Chang after the event, our hero goes after her and asks to speak with her privately. He gives her the hair ties she gave him when he went to battle and asks for another chance to get back together. But she refuses, saying that she no longer has feelings for him. She leaves him heartbroken. Later that night, when Chang tries to ask her for another chance, she also refuses and sits with him and his assistant, discussing that they cannot trust the ruler and must take precautions, as the peace might be a trick to attack them. In the end, her prediction proves true, and the ruler orders our hero to send a team, led by his assistant, to attack them in their base. Since they've taken precautions, they manage to defeat them, but our hero's assistant is seriously injured. Afterward, our hero discovers that Shur was lying and isn't pregnant at all. When she tries to beg him for another chance, explaining that she did it because she loved him, he tells her that he has no feelings for her and will never get close to her because the heroine is the only one in his heart. At the same time, her brother learns from his assistant that they discovered the heroine's company has a secret base and that she might have smuggled weapons through it. Shur goes to confess to Chang that she has feelings for him, and so, she accepts the idea that she has no fate with him and wishes that our heroine would give him a chance so they can live a happy life together. However, the governor's men kidnap our heroine and take her to his palace, where he continuously pressures her to reveal the location of the weapons. He taunts her, telling her that he was the one who eliminated her family for power and that he will get rid of our hero as well after he helps him take down Shang and his soldiers. Meanwhile, our hero and his men engage in a battle against Shang's forces, but as soon as he learns that the governor has kidnapped our heroine, he forms an alliance with Shang. At that moment, the governor arrives, aiming his weapon at her, declaring that he will kill both Shang and our hero right before her eyes. Just as he is about to shoot, Shur steps in front of her, sacrificing himself. At the same time, our hero's soldiers also turn against the governor, and a chaotic battle breaks out. Eventually, our hero and Shang manage to pull our heroine away from danger, and our hero finally puts an end to the governor. As he tries to protect his sister, Shur loses control and seeks revenge by targeting our heroine. She aims at her heart, but before the bullet reaches her, our hero pushes her aside and takes the hit instead. As he lies wounded, he asks her for forgiveness for everything he has done to her and wishes her a happy life before breathing his last breath. Devastated, our heroine mourns his death. Sometime later, we see her visiting his palace, reminiscing about their memories together. We learn that Shang has been appointed as the governor of the city and has successfully restored the peace that the people had longed for. Our heroine bids him farewell, as she plans to disappear from the public eye, rejecting all positions offered to her. When Shur begs him not to let her leave since he loves her, he tells her that he cannot force her to stay and that if they are meant to be together, fate will reunite them at the right time. As for Xia, we discover that she has gone insane and now lives as a homeless wanderer after losing everything. Years later, our heroine is seen giving a speech to a group of politically engaged individuals. At that moment, she is shocked to realize that our hero is alive and among the audience. She reflects on how they had been working together from the very beginning to overthrow the governor and restore peace to the city. And with that, our series comes to an end. Hands up for this one. Don't forget to like and comment on which dramas you'd like us to summarize next. See you!